Well, talk about from your perspective. I mean, he just said, fans back in the building changes everything for him. I mean, is it the same for you?
It definitely changes everything for me as well. Obviously, I think all of us love the atmosphere of fans, and there's fights where you're like, man, this would have been so great to have a packed house. You almost feel like those athletes deserve to have, the standing ovation after performances. But for me in my role, sometimes it can be tricky having fans back in the building. It's been very seamless to not have to worry about, getting through crowds or going around barricades or whatever it may be, or what people are doing in the background of hits, because that's become, sort of an interesting thing for us with these remote hits throughout the arena. So I'm excited, though. I think it just brings something different, and you didn't realize how important the fans were to the experience until they were removed from it. So to not just have fans, but to have 15,000 fans in the building, I think is going to be really phenomenal.
It's weird, but like those hits have kind of become like a signature thing with you or whatever. But I wonder if there'll be like some nerves because, when it's just the studio, I mean, I understand you're on TV, but you get used to the camera, right? But as you said, when you got like kind of a live audience around you that might be heckling a little bit or doing whatever they're doing, will there be nerves on fight night?
No, but what's funny is I wear 2 earpieces because it's so loud, so I have to actually wear doubles. And people think I'm ignoring them. I can't hear anything else except the broadcast or when, the truck comes in and talks to me through my ear. So I'll walk past people I know and then people I don't know, and they're like, oh, she's being so rude, she's not answering us. It's like, no, I can't hear anything. So it actually helps with that experience. I don't know what people around me are even saying because all I have in my ear is the call that the guys are doing, and then, if someone needs to interrupt. So it actually helps, and just having fans around, I think, is a good distraction where I'm like, well, no matter what, they're probably looking at the background, so it's fine.
3 title fights. I think everybody's, has a different flavor to each one of them or whatever. Does anyone stand out to you over the others?
Well, I mean, I think all 3 of them are incredible, and I'm genuinely looking forward to all 3 for so many different reasons. But I think the Zhang Weili and Rose Namajunas fight, for me personally, just really stands out. They have such remarkable personalities, plus their fighting styles are so dominant that to see what they're going to do against one another, and after speaking with them in our fighter meetings, I'm even more hyped about it. Just the seriousness of the approach on both ends. I really think that this is going to be an awesome display, as was Zhang Weili's last fight, obviously against Joanna, one of the best ever, but I cannot wait for that matchup.
That fight has gotten kind of weird, right, with all the political talk and build-up. We didn't really get a chance to speak to Zhang Weili other than the press conference, which is obviously kind of a weird situation.
Yeah, sure.
So in talking to her, do you know, did those comments make it back to her, and did they impact her at all?
That's a good question. We didn't really bring it up in our meeting because it's not pertinent for what we're doing. But I'm sure there has been some sort of relay to her in terms of the message. But she's very proud of where she comes from. She's very proud of the growth of the sport. If we're actually going to speak upon this tomorrow night, but the world, or the country of China, really kind of blew up with the sport of MMA over the last year because of her. Social media numbers and people talking about it and watching and tuning in, and then now people signing up to do MMA, and she's had a direct impact on that. So I'm sure, even though they weren't, positive comments in her mind, I'm sure they did get back to her in some regard, but we didn't actually bring that up in our meeting.
You talked about the growth of China. We're seeing it on this card, right? Can you tell us about any of those fighters, like anything unique? Because I think it's going to be kind of mystery names to a lot of us, what you've learned so far.
Yeah, it definitely is. The thing the biggest takeaway for me from all of the athletes that will be competing from China is how strong they all are. Almost every single one of the athletes has set records at the PI in Shanghai, and massive records. The Chinese flyweight who's coming in, he actually has, I believe, set a record even stronger than Francis Ngannou for punching power. And they were giving me some statistics that I need to actually read more into, because I think it's going to say a lot about the future of our sport as well. Watching this card and the talent that comes out of the Asia region, I think is going to be very telling for where the sport can go in the next few years. And that is a region that like I just mentioned before, is kind of not seen a lot of MMA action, or maybe not a lot of athletes are going that direction. They're pursuing other sports or other ventures. And I think now seeing names like Zhang Weili pop up and say, well, I can do this, and I can use all of these attributes that I have athletically to instead do this sport, I think it's going to make a massive impact. And I know the PI in Shanghai is doing incredible things, and specifically with the athletes on this card.
Any other prelim names or matchups that you studied this week that stood out?
Yeah, well, I think it's fun to watch Tristan Connolly. I mean, after that performance in Vancouver, where when you just watch the walkouts, I think people might have been counting him out, and then to come out there, he's the hometown hero and get a win like that. I think that was huge. I think who else did we? Well, the Cowboy Oliveira fight, I also think is really intriguing. When we spoke with Randy Brown, his opponent, Randy, he has really high goals for himself, and it was nice to see his interaction with Daniel Cormier. In fact, Daniel kind of gave him some advice, and Randy's doing everything he can, and I think he's a very talented athlete, and maybe his record doesn't necessarily show that right at this moment, but I think that matchup, that's our featured prelim of the night, is going to be a really good one.
Nice. And last thing for me, and clearly the most important thing, Dapper Scrappers, I believe, is going again. I mean, to give us the update there.
Yes, that's when Joe's not fighting. That's his project, Dapper Scrappers. But listen, we do it for NFL and NBA, right? You see when guys get off the bus for a football game, you see them, you see their outfits. It's a point to show them. And so the athletes here, they don't dress up just for no one to see them. So they're always asking us, like, is Dapper Scrappers coming back? Is Dapper Scrappers coming back? So now they're here, and they're like, oh, I didn't know he would have brought different outfits. Like, all these people were upset about media day. Huh? Oh, I thought somebody was just, okay, someone was just yelling. I have no idea what you just said. But yeah, no, so it's fun, and it's nice to see how excited the fighters get for it, because I think, we see them in uniforms, we see them in Venom now, and so it's not really the same as we see other sports, and everybody wants to know with what Kevin Durant is going to wear to his game, so now we got to know what Kamaru is going to wear to his fight.
Megan right here. So Megan, obviously the hits, they can be, in terms of the broadcast with everything going on, they're very short moments, but how do you, I guess, what do you provide, what ideas do you give them to kind of push the envelope and just try to make these hits just even more memorable and just have a bigger role and have a bigger part of it?
Like, what do I pitch to producers?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what don't I pitch? They're probably very tired of me. I'll even send them things from like award shows where I think they're doing unique presenter roles. They'll do like, oh, we're now presenting this topic, and they'll come in with an interesting camera angle or a different part of an arena. I'll pitch those types of things for visuals. But in terms of content, if I could participate in every single walkout or fight, I would. There's a lot to do with commercials and sponsorships we have to get in. Sometimes you'll see things on Fight Pass that you wouldn't see on a TV broadcast because of how our timing works. But for me, if I can just add to the story no matter what, I do. They're really good about trying to get me into the show as much as possible, but I like to pitch people's stories, and whether they're used by me in the broadcast or not, or whether the information is just going to go to John, it's just important that we get it out regardless of who the instrument is and who's giving it.
I think a lot of fans really appreciated you clapping back at Stephen A. when he seemed to mention all the other broadcast people except yourself. That is a big role you do have, and you do represent very well for the women out there and working in our business. What does it mean to you when you see that and be like, you know what? No, I am here for all of us.
Yeah, thanks. That was actually like tough for me. I don't love social media in general, but then to play such a big role in terms of pre and post fight interviews, like I'm the one on site doing them, and then to do all the hits in the broadcast and be a part of this team and be literally the only woman on the pay-per-view team. There's not a female desk host, there's not anyone who's female on the pre or post show. It's literally just me, and I've worked to be here. I wasn't handed this. This has been a very long journey, as I'm sure people who have seen me for 10 years ago can attest to, and I've done everything the right way to get here, and to not get the acknowledgement as my male colleagues got, I genuinely was so hurt. And it was nice to see the MMA community kind of have my back on that, and hopefully, my producers let me continue to bug them about adding more and more things to the show, where it's just inevitable Stephen A. is going to have to know that I'm a part of the team as well. But I think it's unfortunately something that the women in this room have dealt with before and will continue to deal with. And I don't think he did it on purpose. I don't think there was any malintent. I don't think he was trying to be rude by any means. I just think it didn't really matter to him. So to know that I've been traveling through this pandemic, I've been, you know, the one adding the reporter role to all of these cards through this really trying time, and he didn't care to notice enough, you know, that's on him, and we'll just keep doing what we do, and eventually, you know, people aren't going to be able to ignore it anymore.
Well, once again, you definitely do represent
Thanks.
for yourself and everyone out there.
Thanks, I try.
My final question, I think a lot of people, they would say, you know what, Megan Olivi, that's a dream job that she has right there. I was wondering, when you have a role like yours, is there even such a thing as a bad day at work? Because if anything happens, it's like, well, you still got to go out there and be a part of something amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to every coin, right? So, of course, every event you leave and you feel grateful that you're the one in the building, right? And you got to witness that or experience that or have those interactions. But I think John probably has said it in scrums many times. When you do TV, there's always something you've done wrong. And you never feel like, I killed it. You know, you're always like, oh my God, I have to go home and watch that. I feel like I messed all of these things up. You know, it's really a love-hate relationship. And so we're always seeking perfection, and it's never going to come to us, but as long as we're striving for it, it always makes for a better night of work. But no, I never come home like fully satisfied. I always feel like I have to just go watch the show back immediately to make sure I didn't completely, you know, just ruin things.
Well, you're doing a great job.
Hey,
Thank you.
thank you.
And just to go back to that Stephen A. Smith thing, is part of the bigger issue is that he wasn't trying to be specifically offensive, he just didn't notice, right? That's almost worse in a way, that he just didn't care to pay any attention to.
Yeah, no, for sure. I also think, you know, I don't know how much he actually watches. I know he's supposed to be an MMA insider, and I'm sure he does his best, but he has a lot on his plate as well. So I don't know how much he actually sees. Like, you know, I do hits for the ABC shows on Saturdays, as well as, you know, pre and post fight interviews, plus all of the in-show hits. And then when ESPN travels, I'm the desk host for a show, as well as, you know, the ESPN prelims. So I wear a lot of hats throughout the weekends, and I am, you know, a part of the broadcast in a big capacity. And yeah, the fact that he didn't notice, again, I don't want to make it about me and be like, oh, he didn't notice me. I just don't know how much he was genuinely paying attention. But I wonder if maybe he was also helped with like the tweet, if maybe it was just, oh, hey, here are the people on the broadcast, because I don't know if he knows everybody in general. So yeah, it's difficult to be overlooked and not take it personally. I've tried not to, and I've tried to just use it as a moment. I don't want to say like a learning moment, but like for me to just realize, well, it doesn't really matter if people notice you or not. Like, I think what I do and what I add is important, especially when I'm able to like tell stories of these athletes that maybe there's not time in a fight to get to. If I have 30 seconds and can do that important hit, and they're not all going to be, you know, these life-changing walkout reports, but some of them are going to be very valuable to their family that's watching at home. I just have to realize like that's important to me, and that's what I have to do.
For what it's worth, you're consistent and high profile enough that he should have noticed you. I don't think that's up for debate.
Thanks.
Yeah. I'm assuming you never heard back from him?
No, I didn't. And funny enough, Stephen A. Smith and I have actually had like really nice conversations in person. And so I think I was actually like, oh, cool, okay. Like, we'll talk about fights when we're in the same room, but I guess it doesn't really matter. And I'm sure I mean, with the amount of replies there were, I'm sure he saw at least some of them, verified accounts or whoever it may be. I mean, one of my friends who's an actor from Always Sunny, which is a massive TV show, even, you know,
it's a great show.
was retweeting and liking things as well. So I'm like, well, I know you've seen some of it, but it'd be nice if, you know, one day he's like, oh shit, how did I not see this? And, you know, but I don't think that's the character we're dealing with. Anyone else? Cool. Thanks, guys.